Welcome to the Superconscious Success Podcast, where Jen and her Superconscious Success family co-hosts bring you valuable content each and every week on topics relating to manifestation, spirituality, and most of all, using your superconscious to manifest success in all areas of your life. Now on to today's episode.
It's time for yet another awesome episode of your Spiritual Shift podcast, featuring myself, Carl Gruber, and Jennifer Matthews as your hosts. Now, this is a show where we give you the chance to meet some of the greatest spiritual masters, trance channels, and teachers of light, love, and truth one-on-one. So open your heart and your mind and come with us on this enlightening journey. And if you don't want to miss a single moment of these shows, make sure to click the subscribe button below. And now, here is my friend Jennifer Matthews to welcome today's guest.
Thank you so much for that, Carl. Well, welcome. And I can genuinely tell you, I'm super excited to introduce our show's guest, Jay Gruendel. Jay is a quantum intuitive energy healer and a quantum being who travels in all dimensions, directions, and time to work with energy. She's claircognizant and clairsentient and can tap into the innate within, knowing that she is source and the higher self, while using intuition to guide her during healing sessions. Plus, she's a certified Reiki Master, a Light Language Linguist, and a Tolpakan Healer who incorporates light language, Tolpakan Healing, and multidimensional energy. Jay's mission statement is every particle in the universe is energy, therefore there is an energetic solution for every problem. So, hey, Jay, thanks so much for being with us today. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited as well.
Oh, wow. Thanks for that, Carl. Let's start off, as we do with our interviews, just you telling us your story as to how you came to be doing what you're doing right now.
Well, my story starts when I was very young. When I was 3 years old, I had my first memory of not being in a body. Of course, years of the earth leading me around with all the drama and trauma. And then I really started waking up around 2011, 2012. And then I began this level of consciousness about 5 years ago, where I really started working with energy and learning energy healing and learning how to remove all of my emotions. And that's when I became Reiki certified. And I learned the biggest shift for me was I learned how to talk to my higher self. And I started a relationship with my higher self, and I became fully merged with my higher self. And then that opened up my whole world. I would just spend all day asking my higher self thousands of questions and really remembering and learning who I was. And that is when my real shift took place about 5 years ago. And of course, it still keeps happening. Over the last 5 years, I keep saying, oh, nothing will surprise me. And then something happens and I'm like, oh, wow,
that surprised me.
Yeah. So I've had numerous walk-in upgrades over the last 5 years. I just had another one a few days ago. And my life just keeps elevating and elevating and elevating. And it keeps going faster and faster and faster.
Tell us about that appearance when you were 3 years old. What was that experience?
Well, I saw creation.
When you were 3. I love it. Did you understand what you were seeing at 3 years old?
Well, I kind of did, but because I was so young, I couldn't put words in it. But what I saw was I saw the light and I knew I was there, and I saw the explosion and all the particles of light come out. And I really couldn't, so for years I had that in me, and I really couldn't put it into words until about 3 years ago. And then that's when I really realized that I was source and that I was part of source. And I believe when I'm done with all of my earth lives that I will merge back into that light. I know I will. I know that I'm merging back into the light and that I'm merging back with source.
Wow. And so what did, as you were, because obviously if you discovered this at the age of 3, as you went through your childhood, and did you have some other experiences? Did your family sort of what did they think about it? Did you ever speak to them about it?
So no, I never spoke to my family about it because it's hard to describe, because I didn't know I was different. I thought everybody was like this, but then I knew that it was not safe to talk to my family about it.
Well, for fear of rejection, or fear that they would not understand.
Well, my family life was very difficult. I found
Okay.
out recently that I'm a Blu-ray and that we choose very difficult family
Oh,
situations.
yep.
And so my childhood was very traumatic, very abusive. Like I could communicate with my animals, and like one day I knew that my cat was dying, and I came in and told my mom, "Oh, well, my cat's dying," and she's like, "Oh yeah," she would just brush me off. In our house, children were meant to be seen and not heard, so a lot of the time I wasn't even allowed to speak at all. So to speak about that was, I knew would just not be okay. And when I was 9 years old, one of my best friends passed away, and her soul came and talked to me after she passed away. Now that I knew, I could not go into the room and go, "Oh, hey, Pamela's here and she's
Yeah.
saying this." I mean, probably my dad would have had me sent away to the loony bin, so.
Just one more question about your earlier life. I thought I read on your website that you actually experienced homelessness or being on food stamps and stuff. What was that part of your life?
I did. So I think because of the abuse and the trauma, I was very sick. I started getting sick the moment I was born. I've been sick my whole life. So I think it was about 2000, in the early 2000s, I became disabled. I was on disability. And so then I was living in California at the time, up in Tahoe, and it's very expensive to live there. And that's when I lost my career and my ability to work. So I went through that whole hardship of my life, being homeless. I wasn't all the way homeless. I was living in an old broken down RV in the casino parking lot up in Lake Tahoe. And but it was very cold because of the snow, so it was a struggle. And then in 2011, my guru came into my life. His name is Babaji. And I started a practice of spiritual purification that they do at the ashram, which is earth, air, water, and fire. And my life started to change. I had a very negative brain. My father was a very negative person. And so I learned it really well from him. So I had to completely rewire and reprogram my brain. And I did that through chanting. So for hours every day, I would sit by the fire and do my spiritual fire. And I would chant and I would chant and I would chant. And that's how I rewired my brain. I also started a gratitude practice, and I started writing affirmations all day long. And then for the first time in my life, I became grateful that I was disabled, because I could spend 10 to 12 hours a day doing this practice.
Yeah.
And that's how I changed my life.
Yeah, I mean, we know about the power of gratitude and the affirmations, and how it can actually turn your life around completely. Now, I wanted to go into something that you said. You were talking about the Blu-ray, and you were talking about how those that are in the Blu-ray often choose to come into a life that is difficult, in order to be able to expand and grow and learn. And can you explain to our listeners a little bit about that? About the Blu-ray?
So I don't know that much about the Blu-rays. I just found out a few weeks ago that I was one. I know that we're more of a rare star seed.
Yeah, okay.
Not that many of us. And I know that we choose really, really difficult, hard lives.
Yeah. I suppose we're all on different journeys, and we've all got different experiences to learn and different karma to learn, and so I think that I'm going to have to research a bit more on that, because that's quite interesting. So
well, I can address the Blu-ray a little bit. I have interviewed Christina Hill, who channels Athela, the Syrian master, master, and that's all Syrian. They use Blu-ray light to heal. And they actually, they come to me saying Nabu Aliyah, and use the Blu-ray light for healing. It's actually a form of plasma. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I just recently also found out that I've had a lot of lifetimes on Sirius B. And this last year, I've been studying to become a certified whale and dolphin healer. And so
beautiful.
Yeah, I have 3 violet dolphins that came to me about 5 years ago from my home planet, Netabarulis. I'm Netabarulis, which is Keviananda is my home planet. So I've been working with these 3 violet dolphins for about 5 years. And then just since January, so much has opened up. I've met my 3 golden dolphin guides, and I have 3 white whale guides, and they are just activating me and opening me up. And I've woken up to my whole one of my lifetimes on Sirius. I don't know how many lifetimes I've had on Sirius. I'll have to explore that and go a little.
Yeah, most definitely. That's really interesting, really cool. So let's go into a little bit. I did say in the bio that we were talking about you being a Tolpakan healer. Now, what is a Tolpakan healer?
So it's called Topican Healing,
yep,
and it was the energy healing class I took 5 years ago. And it's basically a healing modality from the angels.
Yeah.
And the lady that taught it, it was her mission in Lemuria, which she did there, that healing modality. And then she brought it and remembered it here on Earth. And so what it is, it's a series of commands. And you use divine muscle testing, which now I just test yes or no's with my body. I actually do it with my vagus nerve.
Yep.
And so what you would do is you would get a light score or a number. Like, let's say, for example, if I want to know how healthy my heart is or how well my heart is functioning, I get a number and I ask my body, how well is my heart functioning today? And I get a number. And then I do the healing, and then I get a number afterwards. So it's a really, really strong way of knowing whether the healing took place or not.
Wow, okay.
It's kind of like going to the doctor. If you have high cholesterol, getting a lab test, the doctor puts you on medication, and then you get another lab test afterwards. So, and I use so many different kinds of healing modalities that, like, sometimes, like, let's say I want my heart all the way well. Then I'll just keep doing another healing and another healing and another healing until I get it up to the highest possible number that I can. And I'll just keep asking. The other part of Topican healing is there's 3 guides that we use.
Yeah.
For example, the other morning, every morning I check in and I ask, is there anything in the Topican healing guides I need to know for myself today? And I get a yes. And then I ask if it's in guide 1, 2, or 3, which column, which row. And I got, that I had a walk-in the night before. And so it's a good way to discover information. Sometimes it'll tell me I'm dehydrated. Sometimes it'll tell me I need a positive morphic field. When I'm clearing entities, I clear a lot of entities and a lot of negative vibrations. Sometimes an entity won't clear, and then I'll say, well, is the reason in the Topican Healing Guide? It'll usually say yes or no. If it says yes, I'll go to the guide and find out. Like, I was doing a session on somebody yesterday, and an entity was attached to her ascension. So I had to clear it from her. It was blocking her ascension, and I had to clear the entity from the ascension before because it wouldn't clear from her. So it's a really good, thorough, deep way. And this lady, her name was Karen Can, and she was actually a medical doctor.
Okay.
So when I learned from her, I learned to look at the body medically.
Mm-hmm.
So when I heal people, that's kind of the approach I take. It's a bit analytical and a bit third dimensional, but I get a number, whatever their issue is, what I'm healing. If it's a physical healing, I get a number, I do all the different healings on it. And then I try to always get it up to 100% if we can. If not, then I connect with their higher self, and I ask them what's for their highest and greatest good. What healing modality is the best.
Yeah, excellent.
Why does an entity attach itself to a person? Doesn't this entity have something else to do, some other mission? What's the point to doing that, attaching to a human person?
Well, what I found out is that the entities are here to stop us from raising our vibration and raising our light. They don't want us to ascend back to the 5th dimension, or for some of us higher. So what they're going to try to do is keep us down. And when I first really started increasing my light 5 years ago, I had some pretty severe attacks. So I got really good at clearing entities, because they especially if you're a powerful light worker, they will try to dim your light because they don't want, it's a battle between the light and the darkness here.
Yeah. And how will you know if you've got some of these entities attached to you?
I ask every morning.
Yeah. So say for us light workers that can tap into this, but what about people that are just learning or just starting out? How would they know if something like this is happening?
So there's a process that I also learned from Topican Healing. It's called the True Light Score. And what it does, it measures the positive and the negative energies in a person, place, or thing. So I will start by asking, if I'm working with a client, the first thing I ask is what their light score is. And then if it's low, I know they have entities attached.
Oh, okay.
And then I start clearing.
And so you were mentioning a little bit before about a walk-in. Now, what is a walk-in? Can you explain that for our listeners?
So a walk-in is where another soul would walk into your body, or you can have part of your soul that hasn't come down yet, and it's more considered a higher self upgrade.
Okay.
There's two kinds.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Well, I don't know if you know who Gruendel Melchizedek is, but he was actually a full walk-in, where it was just a complete new soul that walked into a body, and then the natal soul walks out.
Okay, so they just replaced it.
Wow,
cool.
So next time, my barber shop has a sign on the door says we accept walk-ins. I'm gonna look at that next time and go, well, I don't know if I'm gonna get my hair cut here.
Yeah, that might encourage it to happen, right? Because you can manifest that.
Oh man. So one more question: that an entity is not necessarily the soul or the being the essence of a human that has left the form. It could be an entity of a different form, not necessarily from a human.
Well, usually they carry a dark vibration. I have found one entity called darkness masked in light, and it's kind of tricky and it's harder to clear. What it does take the vibration of a soul, and then it infiltrates the person's body, so the person ends up with like two souls in their body.
Wow.
So then I have to remove that soul with that negative entity, and I do it all with light and with source.
So how would you recognize somebody that something like this is happening to?
So because I'm clairsentient, claircognizant, I just feel it and I know right away. I can feel it just by looking at them.
Okay.
And then as soon as I connect with their higher self and I ask, I just ask, are they darkness, masked, and light? And I'll get a yes or a no. And then I know if their light score is really low, then I know. And I keep clearing and clearing and clearing until they don't have any entity interferences, until they're not darkness, masked, and light, or a shapeshifter, until they don't have any demons. I just clear it all. Because my goal is to increase the light here on the planet. Yeah. So I do that just by, helping one person at a time and clearing them. I clear houses. If I go into a house, and I feel negative energy, I'll clear the house. Or if there's a soul that's there that hasn't crossed over, they'll be like, oh, hey, somebody's here that can cross us over. And they just like get my attention and I have to cross over.
And I know that pets are really good at picking up on these entities too. I was talking to an animal communicator not that long ago who was explaining to me, because my pets would sometimes, this was years ago, my little dog would just stand there and just start barking, like at nothing. Like we obviously couldn't see what it was, but she would bark and she would bark until we kind of like closed the door and I never realized that what she was actually seeing was actually some sort of entity or some sort of spirit that had kind of resided there, because they're actually very highly tapped in, the animals.
Yeah.
So
I had a cat that could see demons, and she would sit at the window and go, I'd be like, but there's nothing there, and then sometimes I would go to open the door and let her out, because he was an outdoor cat, and he would go and come back in. He wouldn't even go outside if it was outside the front door. They're very tuned in.
They're very tapped into that sort of stuff. And even the dogs that I've got now, because we had to put our dog down 3 or 4 years ago because she had kidney disease, and our dogs now will often sit there, and they would, like my older dog, because my younger dog didn't know her, but my older dog would just sit there and just gaze, and I just knew that our other dog was just sitting there right in front of him, because you could see the look in his eye. So it's amazing to watch them because they're so tapped into to spirit and to to the entities around them. So quite
And
remarkable.
animals can be soul returns as well. And I know that
Yeah.
humans can be soul returns, but animals can too. I have a cat that's been with me since I was a child, and he's on his 5th body now with me.
Well, this is the thing. Like we've got after she passed, we went and we got another dog for my daughter because she was dealing with anxiety and it was kind of, and losing the other one was a bit hard. So we got another dog, and I swear that there are so many similarities with this other dog that I believe that she's come back to us, but she's just kind of like an upgraded version because this one is crazy. I mean, this one is like jumps all over the place. She goes absolutely nuts when she's not around her other dog. She goes absolutely nuts. So it's quite funny. But I do believe that there is some aspect of our previous dog in her.
Yeah. So besides connecting with human souls, I can connect with animal souls and talk to them and ask them. And then I have something that has happened to me, which is called soul recognition, where I recognize the soul even though it's not in the same body. And that's what's been with my animals. I'm like, boy, he looks like you. That looks familiar. And then I'm like, are you? My last cat, his name was White Paws. I'm like, are you White Paws? And I get this big yes. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I have to adopt you then. And so, yeah.
One other question about clearing entities. Are there practical methods to like clear a house? I've heard just using sage or sound tones. Does that work?
So there's many different ways to clear, and I think every person should find a way that works the best for them. I have not used sage or tuning forks to clear, so I don't know about them, if they work or not. I know that a lot of people burn sage. For me, personally, I think because the entities that were coming were strong, if I burn sage, it didn't clear them.
Yeah. I mean, I know with myself that my daughter, she actually runs a business from home. So she's actually a lash tech, and so she has a lot of clients that come in. So I'm consciously aware. Thankfully, her clients are pretty good, but I'm consciously aware of the different energies that come into the house. And so, I will do some clearing exercises, and I will have my frequencies, my sound frequencies on that can help with that. So I think that it is important to recognize the energies that are around you. And so and I have done sage before, but I think it depends on the level of the entity too. Like you said, if you've got something that's really strong, then you're probably going to need something a little bit more intense, and get somebody like yourself that can come in and actually clear it for you. So will you know if there's entities in your house? Is it kind of like when you've got like energy vampires where it just sucks the energy out of you? Will someone physically notice that?
You can. And so besides asking what my light score is, I ask, what is the light score of my house? Or I have a property boundary line because I have a universal shield. I'll ask, what's the light score of my property boundary? So I ask and I get scores, because some of them are tricky. And like the darkness masked in light, it masks itself in light. So you don't see it and you don't know it's there because you think you're looking at light.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Now, sometimes to clear the more powerful ones, I'll use 2 or 3 things. I'll do light language. I'll do my normal way of clearing. I'll call in the violet flame. I use Andaras. Andaras are very powerful. I have one Andara that clears, and some of them I have to use all 4 of those things to clear if it's a really, really powerful entity.
So what is an Andara?
An Andara is like a crystal, but it's not from this earth. It was not made by the earth. It comes from Andromeda, and they were actually brought here, thousands of years ago, and they were buried here, and they were planted here.
So whereabouts did you get a handle on that then?
Well, I just feel like that when I'm ready and I'm vibrating at that frequency, that information comes to you. So I
Absolutely.
found out about Ondaras. I have one here I can show you. So
Yeah.
this is one.
Oh, that's pretty.
Oops. There we go. Yeah,
That's
this
pretty.
happens to be a violet one.
Nice.
So they kind of look like glass, but you can see that this one's not glass. It has crystals on it and stuff
Yeah.
right here. And so they carry a very, very high vibration, and they're very multidimensional,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very good at clearing. And they're sometimes called destiny stones. So that will help you discover your soul purpose and what your path is. And they're also, they work for ascension. They help you elevate your vibration. And
Wow.
they're monatomic, which means they're only made of one element. And they have no duality. So they don't need it like your regular crystals. You have to clear them and put them out under the moon or the sun. With Ondaras, you don't have to do that.
Okay.
So they have no duality. They don't absorb any negative energy.
Fantastic.
And they talk to me. They tell me their names. They all have different names. They like to play games. Since they're multidimensional, they come and go. They sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not.
Oh,
sometimes they change colors. I'll be like, okay, where are you today? I'd like to play with you.
That's a fun game.
Yeah. Wow, but they're magical stones. They really are.
Decades ago, there used to be pet rocks. So they sound like pet rocks.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I sleep with some of mine, so I guess they are kind of my pets.
Well, I am absolutely fascinated that you do light language. Can we talk about that and explain, is light language a universal language amongst the beings and races of all the different galaxies? And even though humans don't understand it, does it benefit us just from hearing it?
So light language is, in a way, a universal language because it's the language of your soul. And since we all have souls, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands of dialects because each soul is going to speak different. Like I think I speak last time I asked and checked, over 2,000 different dialects.
Wow.
And so it's kind of like Reiki, where it has a wisdom of its own. And it'll go exactly where you need the healing, even if you don't know that you need healing there. You can also give it intention. And a lot of times when I'm channeling light language, like I'll get visions and then I'll share. That's the way I translate. I'll share with the person what I saw while I was channeling light language for them.
Can you channel some light language for us right now?
Sure.
That would be awesome.
That would be cool.
Okay. Shatia kaya kosho kania tatia taya osho shatia kakaya kolo kania shia tataya kolo kia katia taya kosho kania tatia taya ista patia kaya kosho kania tia taya kalia tataya osho kania tataya tonia shishia taya tatia to. That was for manifestation.
Oh, fantastic. That was just so calming. And what was it? So that's to manifest.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, that's cool. I love light language.
So you just channeled it. I mean, what was the source coming through you, you being the channel?
Well, I just asked for manifestation energy and I just let it come. Okay. And right now, a lot of my team's here that I called in before I got on the call with you. So probably a little bit of all of them.
Oh, wow. So what was I going to say? I'm losing my train of thought here. So you do emotional healing too, because we know how important emotional clearing is for us to be able to ascend, to reach our highest level of light. So what ways do you deal with the emotional clearing?
So the emotional clearing, I feel, is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
That's how I achieved a lot of physical healing. I just started clearing myself and clearing myself and clearing myself because my body had so many stuck emotions. Yeah. And you can also clear your animals as well.
Okay. And
Because
how
animals will also have stuck emotions. And I started with, Topican Healing. I also recommend for somebody who's just getting started, who doesn't really understand it, there's a really good book called The Emotion Code by Bradley Nelson.
Yes, yeah.
So I started that way. Now, since then, I've gotten, I'm also a hybrid mantis, and so my brain works really fast. And I thought, oh, this is just too slow for me. I can't do it this slow. So I've attracted what I need. I'm good at manifesting and attracting what I need. And I've just gotten faster and faster and faster at it. So now I can clear stuck emotions very quickly, where before it would be one at a time. And emotions are in layers, kind of like the onion. I would clear them all out of my body. And then, for example, each illness I had to clear all the stuck emotions from that illness. Or when I was clearing trauma, I cleared each of the traumas from my body, and each one of the traumas had stuck emotions to them. One of the things I had was fibromyalgia, for example, and I cleared each trauma from my body that I believed was contributing to, because I feel like I healed my fibromyalgia. I don't have it really anymore. I mean, once in a while it might flare up, but I don't have the pain anymore.
Oh, that's awesome. I remember years ago, because I'm actually a naturopath. I actually started off as a naturopath and a massage therapist. And so I remember one day I had a lady come in and she had fibromyalgia, and I could barely touch her without her just about jumping off the table. She was in so much pain. And the interesting thing was that she was also a client of mine as a naturopath, and she had so much built up emotions, and she would sit in my office and she'd just cry. And it wasn't just about the pain. She was in a relationship that was highly toxic, and she had something like 7 kids or something, and that'll do it to you. But it was interesting because she really wanted to release that pain, but until we could actually tap into that emotional side, I think it's very difficult to be able to move on. Because like you said, when we have illness, Carl has a Power of 8 healing group that he does, which is incredible, and we've done a lot of healings, haven't you, Carl, in that particular session? And a lot of it comes back to emotional stuff, and people will recognize this. And and even like my mum and that she goes through, people that have gone through trauma, quite bad trauma, can often manifest in so many different ways. So I think emotional clearing, I think, is something that we all need to probably tackle at some point if we're wanting to heal from some physical illness of any kind.
Yes. So with the fibromyalgia, after I cleared all of the traumas, then I started with my body. I had to clear all of the stuck emotions out of my muscles, out of my fascia, out of my ligaments, out of the joints. I mean, I just took it because I learned from somebody who is a medical doctor. I mean, I just broke it all down, and I just cleared and cleared and cleared and cleared. I once had somebody who I was studying with Ascension with, and she's like, you could clear all day long, 365 days a year, and still not clear everything you need to clear. And I was like, but you didn't even know how much clearing I've done. And she's like, doesn't matter, multitask, clear while you're doing the dishes, clear. You can do a command before you go to bed that says, I now clear all that no longer serves, and say that command every night before you go to bed, and your soul will clear all night long. I mean, you just need to clear and clear and clear and clear. And since I've cleared, I raise my vibration, and I really accelerated in my path by clearing all that stuck energy out of me.
Wow. And that's something that we can do, as that anybody can do. Like Jay said, before you go to bed at night, just set the intention and let your higher self and your soul know, I need this cleared before, while I'm sleeping. Because some miraculous, it's just like the other night I started to feel a little, my family's been a bit sick. They've had like the colds and flus and that sort of thing. And so I started kind of getting a little bit of a scratchy throat. And I remember going to bed that night and I said, no, this is not happening. And I said, overnight, I set the intention, can you heal me so that, I'm healthy and thing in the morning. I woke up the next morning and I was completely fine. So I think that we can set the intention. If we allow our higher self and our soul to work, they'll work on it for us.
Yeah.
Well,
Everybody also has a body elemental.
Yep.
So you can always ask your body elemental to heal anything. I happen to know the name of mine because I asked and got to know him. So yeah, the other thing you can do, you can ask your higher self to do a body scan. And I actually feel it. It kind of is like a buzzing noise, and it'll go, and then it'll stop right where there's a problem. And I'll be like, oh, okay, that's where I need to heal. So anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. One of the things that was the most profound for me was clearing my heart wall, which I learned about in the emotion code. And my heart wall was 691 miles thick. And I went, oh my gosh. Once I cleared my heart wall, I could feel my heart for the first time in my life. I think because of all the pain and
the trauma.
And being able to be in our heart is so important for ascension.
It is. Wow, 691 miles. I think that's but you went through a lot of trauma as a child, so
a lot of lifetimes.
A lot of lifetimes of trauma probably. So so you can kind of understand that. So what were you going to say, Carl?
I think that we have to remember too that humans have free will. So if emotional clearing, I mean, you can actually just simply choose, say, I no longer choose to accept this fear, this emotion of fear or sadness. I mean, we do have free will. We do have power to choose and point ourselves in that direction. You have to be consistent with it, because if you spend 25 years vibrating an emotion of fear, it's not going to happen overnight. But you have to stay purposeful with it and say, I don't choose fear anymore. I choose love. I choose love.
And I think
free will is huge.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that with until we can get our egos out of the way and we can actually start to tap into the higher self and start to recognize that it is about love, and that fear really doesn't exist. It's an illusion. And I think that once we can do that, unfortunately we've been programmed so much to fear everything. You look at everything around you, it's about fear. You watch the news, and which I never watch the news. It's like,
I don't either.
It's like my son came to me the other day and goes, Mom, did you hear about such and such? And I said, nope, I have no clue. I said, I turn off my news feed on Facebook. I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the news. Because and I've had people say, you really are on your own planet, aren't you? And I said, yep. And I'm loving it where I am. So I think it's important that we're really conscious of what we allow to come in, because that is what will actually create this fear within us. So absolutely. Good point, Carl.
Well, another thing that I would like to ask you about, Jay, is I know, again, I looked at your website and it's pretty awesome. You describe yourself as an old soul. Can you tell us about some of your past lives and experiences?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I kind of, because I love to talk to my higher self, I asked my higher self, and I liked it. My massage therapist teases me. She's like, oh, you and your numbers. But I've had 756,536 timelines since the moment I was created.
Cool.
And I'm trying to, my hobby, I guess, and my downtime, I'm trying to figure out every single one of those timelines. And I figured out a lot of them. Most of them are galactic. I am a violet flame earth angel. So about 500,000 of those was as a violet flame earth angel. And then as far as my earth ones, oh my gosh, I've had so many. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of timelines.
No wonder your heart wall was 691 miles thick. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Wow. Oh wow, this has been so interesting. I can't believe that we've already been talking for 45 minutes. But I am really interested in us doing that healing that you were talking about, because I think that's really important for our listeners.
Yes. So what was the most profound for me was removing my heart wall. And like, so when you're in your mind, you're in your ego. As soon as you
Yes.
drop down into your heart, you're in love. So what I wanted to do was to now, I mean, when I first started with my heart wall, it took me a couple months to remove the whole thing. Now I can do it like that. And so what I would like to do for you and for our listeners is to do a heart wall removal for everybody. So whether you're listening
Nice.
live or you're watching the replay, I'm going to remove your heart wall because I believe that's so important for everybody to be in their heart space and to be in a place of love. You need to be in your heart for ascension, and we all need more love on this planet. Love is one of the highest vibrations and frequencies on the planet.
Oh, that would be awesome. We would be really grateful for that.
Okay, good. I'll do that right now. Great, it's done.
Oh, nice. Girls. You're just experiencing it. I was like, this is nice. Well, thank you so much, Jay, for being with us today. We've really thoroughly enjoyed it, and to learn about you and what you have going on and all the great work that you're doing. So can you let our listeners know how they may get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website is Jay's Angel Light, and it's jaysangellight.com, and you can always email me at jaysangellight@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for this chat, and you really are a beacon of light. We've absolutely loved it. So about you, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and you enjoy your evening. I know it's probably almost bedtime now, or dinner time, one of the two.
Time to go for a walk on the beach.
Oh, nice. Is it quite warm over there at the moment?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I'll speak to. What's that?
It's Florida. It's always warm.
True. I was speaking to somebody in the UK last night, and of course they've got their heat wave going on. And I said, "Oh, what's the temperature over there?" And she goes, "Oh, about 36 degrees Celsius." And I said, "Oh, 36 degrees Celsius in Australia, they're out on the beach." So, so it's funny how in different parts of the world, we all experience it differently. Because of course in the UK it's cold most of the time, so they're struggling a little bit over there. But but thank you so much for being with us today, and I look forward to chatting to you soon, Jay.
Great, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
See you later, Jay. Love and light. Bye-bye.